I would not be angry if you found me to be a lost cause.
You must not say such things. You are Penelope Featherington. Do not forget that.
She's not seeking a husband in you, I hope.
No, I'm only helping her find one.
Since when are you worried about Penelope?
I wanted to start by asking you, obviously Penelope gets her big makeover at the beginning. Were you sad to see the citrus colours go?
Girl,
I
no.
wouldn't, I kind of
No.
have her colouring and I would steer clear of them, I think.
I think it's like, I wouldn't necessarily say that all redheads can't wear citrus colors. I don't think that's true, but I think it's like a combination. It's like both that it's like neon yellow, it's covered in flowers. I'm wearing a necklace with like 20 butterflies on it. I have a tiara, and I have the tightest curls you've ever seen.
There's a lot going on.
It's all happening.
Yeah.
So no, I was so ready for the glow up, and it was just so much fun to get to do it.
Yeah, what was it? Because it's kind of it made me think of She's All That. Moment.
Yeah,
I was walking
for
down the
sure.
stairs. I was wondering kind of what was that like getting to film that big.
The thing is, it's actually not my comfort zone at all. It sounds so stupid when actors like, I don't want to be the center of attention. But weirdly, I think we both feel that way. It's like you like doing your thing, but you don't want to be like, look at me now. So I think I felt a lot of trepidation, but then I was like, it's fine, because she would also. Also, I'm like not like graceful on stairs, so I was like, if I fall in this moment, I will never recover from the embarrassment. So
it's okay, that's what cut taking again is for.
Yeah. But it was scary, but yeah, I'm really proud of it.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask about, obviously, Penelope confronts Colin about what he said at the end of season 2.
Yeah.
I was wondering whether you were concerned about whether fans would be able to forgive him for that, and what you.
I think it's about time, actually, and I think we've discussed that it's like it's really nice that she gets to do that, because obviously I've heard a lot from the fans about how they feel about it, and it's really nice to see her have her moment of like not taking it from him, and
she's got to give it to him.
He wants to come back and play Happy Families and be best friends again. Whereas it needs to be said and it needs to be resolved before we can move on and go any further. And
he's kind of coming back from like it's like gap year vibes,
absolutely.
been away and changed. What do you think was the key to kind of rehabbing Colin's image, did you think?
I think I wanted to explore the idea that he had the gap year that he wanted to have in the previous year. He came back and was kind of like bragging about all the adventures he had. Whereas this year he's quite content in like the experience that he's had, and doesn't feel like he needs to share it. He's just like, and it kind of it gives him something that he's always felt like he needed a purpose, and he needed something that was his own. I think being in such a large family and they feel very successful. They've all got their own things going on, so it's given him like this sense of purpose and like belonging and confidence to come back into society. But then someone sees him for who he really is and kind of brings that back out of him. So,
in the previous season we had a brilliant like shooting weekend, and we had the horse racing. I was wondering how you settled on the hot air balloon segment and what that was like to film.
Yeah, we felt like we needed a big event, especially you get to episode 3 and you're getting into the details of the couple falling for each other, and you want to mix it up a little bit. And one of the writers in my room, Daniel Robinson, he pitched the idea of a hot air balloon. And I have to be honest, when he first pitched it, I was like, that's crazy. I couldn't picture it, but then he pitched the dynamics of it and how it would play on both Penelope and Colin. And I think it really works in terms of building the heat between them.
Yeah. And it's obviously like a crucial moment with Lord Debling as well. I was wondering, how did you strike that balance between making sure that fans didn't end up rooting for him with Penelope over Colin?
I mean, I want fans to be, trying to decide what team they're on. I wanted to have real stakes as a love triangle, and I think Lord Debling is the perfect pair for Penelope on paper in many ways. He's a guy who is a bit eccentric and knows it and doesn't care and really owns who he is. And that's something that Penelope needs to work on this season. So actually, he would be a good match for her. But I was never too worried about it stepping on Colin, because you've got years of unrequited crush and longing. Like, that's always gonna have an appeal.
The history.
The history.
And obviously you're stepping up as showrunner. And I saw you previously talking about how adjusting to the fans love this show, the amount of input that you get from fans. So I was wondering how you kind of made sure that you struck that balance between fan service but also kind of putting your own stamp on things?
So I try not to read what the fans are saying while we're in production and while we're writing. I do get sent things occasionally, so I'm like...
Who is sending you things?
My writers, friends, family, I'm loosely aware of what the fans are saying. But my approach to it is really to just hire writers who are fans of the show, of the books, of the genre. And my grandmother, who's 91 years old, is actually the biggest fan of the Bridgerton books for, a decade or more. And so I do feel like I have to do her service, ultimately.
And I know that obviously we're in the thick of season 3 at the moment, but I understand that you're in the development process with season 4. I was just wondering how that is going. Is that odd, kind of being like promoting this season while also working on what's to come?
It is. It's difficult because people ask me questions about season 3, and I'm like, does this happen in season 3 or does this happen in season 4? So I've had to like really study season 3 because when we wrote it, it was over 2 years ago now. So yeah, it's a bit tricky.
Yeah. No major spoilers.
No major spoilers, but it's going well, and we're really excited.
Carriage scene, which is where we leave off the first part. And I understand that you you'd written the show, and then Netflix told you that it would be split. So I was wondering how that was the moment that you decided to leave off, because obviously fans, so much anticipation for that bit.
Yeah, so we actually didn't plan to break at the midpoint, but we had written most of the season, and Netflix approached us and asked about batching it in 2 parts. And it just worked out perfectly that we have this big moment at the midpoint of the season. We do tend to break the season in 2 parts in a way anyway. Yeah. So I'm excited for that to be the last moment of the season. I think it will leave fans with time for a lot of speculation and, it'll be good.
Really whet their appetites for like what's to come.
Yes, in more ways than one, perhaps.
And I read that when you were kind of starting out in Bridgerton, you found it, and this is completely understandable, kind of awkward writing these sex scenes for having to give in a professional setting. I was wondering, has that got any easier?
I know what quote you're talking about, and that quote was talking about the fact that I wrote one of the very first sex scenes for the show, where I did a pass on it. And so the awkwardness was more about the fact that I didn't know how far we were going on the show. We hadn't established that internally. So I was really going for it, and I showed it to Chris Van Dusen, and I was like, gosh, did I go too far? Like, is he gonna be like, perv, So no, like ever since that, once we established this is what the show is and you should go for it, it's not awkward at all. It's storytelling, it's part of the process, and we approach it very professionally.
It's funny because I remember when I read the book years ago when I first got cast, and it was the scene that stood out to me because it gave me the first indication of how racy this series was going to be. I was like, oh wow, okay. And then we joked about it in season 1. We were like, oh my god, and the carrot, But then when we found out we were the leads of 3, we were like, oh, that's probably going to happen. Yeah. But it was written so beautifully. Like I always say that scene encapsulates everything that people love about Bridgerton, in that it's got it's really dramatic. Yeah. It's like you hold your breath when he comes up to the door. It's really romantic. This profession. It's like the them not understanding one another, and then you've got the passion and the sexiness, and then you've also got this beautiful injection of humor, which is what I so love about this couple. It's like that tender, gentle, and that's like another form of intimacy. Being able to laugh like that with someone is just so
it's really
gorgeous.
Sweet. And I obviously I haven't watched the back half, but I was wondering how we get that moment where he's like, Lady Whistledown, if I ever, he's quite through the day. How is Penelope's identity as Lady Whistledown going to play out in the second half?
I mean, I always say to people, I think the thing is, even if, let's say, episode 1, for whatever reason, it would be terrible storytelling, but here I was back from London, they both had their club, and they go, do you know what, I forgive you now, and maybe we should just go out and get married. There would still be the horrible elephant in the room that is Lady Whistledown. She can't really ignore it forever. So I think, no matter what, that's going to be an issue for them.
And at this point, he's kind of the person that's most angry at Whistledown because of how she's affected the ones people that he cares about. So, really sort of puts you on edge, doesn't it?
It's not nice.
Things can't go too well.